Simeon Panda versus Vegan Gains. It's like Rocky and Bullwinkle, except they fucking hate each other and one of them's gonna get sued.
Welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is VitruvianPhysique. Thank you for stopping by. Today we have an interesting video. This is something that a few of you have actually mentioned in my comments and asked for a response video, partly because in a way it actually relates to me and to a few of the videos which I have released in the past few months. This is on the recent controversy or beef that's been going on between Vegan Gains and Simeon Panda. Also guys, I want to mention this video is going to go a little bit long, and for that I apologize, but at the same time, deal with it. The reason being is because Vegan Gains, he's done a lot of research into this, and good job to him. But if I want to refute anything he says or disagree with it, I have to provide as much, if not better and more comprehensive research than that. And in the case of Simeon Panda, we are dealing with a man's career. In a sense, we're dealing with a man's life. This is something I do not take lightly, and I don't want to be, just making another video which skims over and gives you 6 to 8 minutes of just crap, and I've pretty much given you 20% of the information that you need to make an accurate and well-informed opinion. I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna beat it into the ground until you as the viewer are 100% totally informed. Lots of guys are pretty much saying that it's, it's a matter of certainty. It's 100% this, 100% that. Vegan Gains made a whole video where he pretty much gave or insinuated that if you disagree with him and disagree with what he's saying, you're a fucking idiot. And that's absolutely not true. This is not a matter of black and white. Anyone who says that it is wrong, and they're just trying to blow smoke up their own ass. This is just a matter of, it's shades of gray. 50 shades of gray. For those of you that don't know, I'll quickly summarize. So Vegan Gains pretty much made a video. As you guys know, Vegan Gains kind of thrives on controversy and unfortunately negativity, and he made a video in which he really badmouthed the crap out of Simeon Panda on a number of things. He was like criticizing his nutrition, his training methodologies, his whole business, and his his training plans. But the main criticism was obviously on Simeon Panda's claim that he is a lifetime natural bodybuilder. Simeon Panda obviously competes in WrestleMania, which is a natural organization. Simeon actually made a response video, and in this video he decided that I guess he's sick of always being called out for this. Was it by Vegan Gains? Maybe it was a response to him, perhaps. Maybe it was a response to someone else. The YouTubers that made whole videos using my name in the titles to get followers and to get subscribers to make money. Oh, okay, yeah, never mind. Either way, so he decided he's gonna make a video where he will definitively, once and for all, beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt, in his opinion of course, prove that he is a natural bodybuilder. And he decided to do this by submitting himself to a polygraph test and a drug test, specifically a hair follicle drug test, and not just one but 6 of them consecutively once every month. He did the first one, and now we're waiting on the results, and he's going to be waiting for, I guess, 5 more. Now the reason this pertains to me is because I made a few videos which went, I guess, fairly popular a couple months ago, called the Natty debate part 1 and part 2, in which I provided a methodology that you can calculate or estimate whether an individual is natural or not based on their physical stats and their FFMI calculation, which is the fat-free mass index. That's right, Vegan Gains, I did it first. I hit it first. And in that video I mentioned Simeon Panda, and just to keep things completely open, that way, if there is any level of bias, you guys are fully aware of it, you can take that into consideration. In that video I used Simeon Panda as an example and mentioned that I believe, based on the stats, the FFMI, my personal experience, just his physique, I don't think that he is a natural athlete. But that's just my opinion, I'm not saying that's 100% definitive fact. So you may be wondering, what the fuck is the point of this video? Well, it's gonna go into both Vegan Gains' video, Simeon Panda's video, and it might even touch on a couple other people's responses that they've had, because nobody is really encompassing all the relevant information that you as the viewer need to make an accurate, unbiased and informed decision. And there is a lot of research done on this, obviously, as I'll be mentioning. Anybody can be wrong. This is in no way 100% infallible science. I'm going to provide as much information as I can to you. You guys can make opinions and estimations, so you can get closer and closer to 100% accuracy, but you will never get there. Anybody who says they can, they're wrong. So the main problem I saw in Vegan Gains' video is that obviously he's done a lot of research, and I commend him for that. Good job. But the problem is he's so pissed off, and it just, the anger and hate just just leaks out of his pores. And I guess, you know, you can take that as a positive because he's so passionate, but you can take that as a severe negative because he's extremely biased. And anybody who, you know, does research, the problem is you're gonna get a shitload of it. There are so many articles on all these different topics that what you can do is, if you research enough, you can start to selectively cherry pick certain things which support your thesis or your, you know, hypothesis. And in Vegan Gains' case, he's trying to discredit Simeon Panda. So he's gonna search for articles, find stuff that really supports him, and he's gonna just throw that in your guy's face. And that's fine, because, you know, he's not, you know, being deceitful, he's not making stuff up. And I've checked out his resources. I actually looked up all the articles, all the websites he used, and everything checks out, so good for him in that sense. But there are other articles and there are other resources which actually do the opposite. They may contradict him. Now, I don't know if he saw them or not. I don't know how extensive his research was, but if he doesn't include them and kind of just, you know, puts them aside because he really wants the good information, the stuff that, you know, lines up with his theories, in a way that's kind of like willful blindness. It's almost like you're not deceiving someone, but you are negating information, which may make this topic, like I said, gray, not black and white. So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm not gonna do that. And I am going to do my best to be my own red team. Now you guys may be wondering, what the fuck does that mean? Well, it comes from the saying I really like. You guys ever watched that show Newsroom? It was on HBO a couple years ago. I liked it a lot. And in that show, for those of you guys that don't remember, they had like these producers. It was kind of like, you know, like a fake CNN or something. And there was all these news producers and journalists, and it was kind of the inner workings of how that works. Either way, so what would happen is when you had like a journalist or a group of producers or something, when they had a story to pitch for, you know, like some kind of news story, they would pitch it before going on television with it and making it public. They would pitch it to their colleagues. Now their colleagues, even though they're on the same team, and even though they may completely agree with them on whatever story it is, they would do their best to just tear it apart. Like, that's wrong, or, you know, you don't have enough information on this, or that's, you know, selective bias, or that's, you know, like an opinion. And they would just do their best to pick it apart piece by piece by piece. And the reason they did that, even though they may 100% agree with him, is because, you know that saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger? That's the reason why. The reason is because when you have a theory and you're trying to prove something, it's kind of like you're in school, you know, you're in university, you're getting your PhD, and you have a thesis. You have to defend that thesis against a panel of professors who are just gonna like try to like break it down. And if you successfully defend it, congratulations, you get a PhD, and your thesis is, in a sense, I guess, correct. That's the case here. I'm gonna do my best to provide you both sides of the story. Obviously, I mentioned in my earlier videos that in this specific case study on Simeon Panda, I believe he is not a natural athlete, but does that mean that I encompass 100% of the story? No. There are a lot of pieces of evidence or calculations or whatever which can kind of contradict that. Like I said, not black and white, it's gray. That way you guys can make your minds up for yourself. I am simply the messenger, you know, take it as you will, and I respect you guys to make up your own informed opinion. All right, topic number one. Focusing on the basics, this has been mentioned in the past, the FFMI overall body stats. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because we all know Simeon has an fat-free mass index of 28 to 29. This is extremely high. If you look at past Mr. Olympia winners, he is tied with or better than 5 of them, which is crazy. The first Mr. Olympia, Larry Scott, had an estimated FFMI of 29. Arnold Schwarzenegger was around 28.4, around there. Frank Zane was about 25.8 to 26, Chris Dickerson 28.3, Samir Bannout 28.3. So the fact that obviously there is a bit of a time difference between these Mr. Olympias, considering they're mostly in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, be that as it may, I don't think, you know, like what has advanced that much, allowing someone as a natural bodybuilder to be as good, if not better, than Mr. Olympias from just 20, 25, 30 years ago. And don't even get me started on the guys who finished second place at the Mr. Olympia. I'm looking at you, Ken Waller. Stay the fuck away from my shit.
Hey, you know what I'm gonna do when I get to Africa? I'm gonna take Katz's shirt, I'm gonna hide it. I'm gonna take everything I can find of his, hide it.
T-shirt thieving ass son of a bitch.
And as it's been mentioned in my videos and Vegan Gains' video, there were studies done on this with Mr. America, winners from the pre-steroid era, we're talking the 40s and 50s, having an average FFMI of 25.4. The maximum from a study that was done with 74 non-steroid using athletes, the maximum was 25. So the fact that Simeon is able to go above these pre-steroid era Mr. America winners, above Mr. Olympias, above these subjects in this study, and not just go above them by like, you know, like half a point or a point, maybe pushing 26, we can be, you know, we can get a little bit of leniency in that range, but going up to 28 to 29 is, you know, a really big statistical anomaly, perhaps too big to accept as natural. But on the other hand, like I said, guys, we're going to be focusing on both sides of the debate. I'm going to provide everything. For natural, there are some issues with this. Number one, you're looking at Mr. America winners from the 40s and 50s. Can you really compare athletes from 6 decades ago? I mean, you could argue that things like nutrition, training, supplementation, I guess, have advanced, you know, a reasonable amount, allowing for people like Simeon Panda to exist. In addition, there actually was one Mr. America winner who had a recorded FFMI of 28.0. So the fact is, you know, if he can do it way back when, and I'm not saying, you know, how accurate these stats are or how accurate this article is, but according to this, if you had one guy that can go up to 28 way back in the 40s and 50s, perhaps it's reasonable that Simeon Panda could do the same now. Also, looking at the study where they had 74 athletes and tested them where they got the maximum of 25, guys, that was a study with 74 people. That's not a very, you know, huge sample size. You could theoretically say that now that we have sample sizes in the millions, the reason is because social media has started to connect us all, and in that sense, you could, you know, essentially look at so many people's physiques, so many people's stats, so your sample size is now in the millions. And so if you had a guy, you know, max out at 25 and a sample size of 74 from these, you know, athletes, theoretically, couldn't you say that, you know, we're going to be pushing higher levels, 26, 27, even 28? Naturally, when you're dealing with this enormous sample size and he's just some crazy 99.99999 genetic, you know, percent anomaly, I'll leave it up to you guys. Topic number 2, training time. This is something which I see as kind of a defense used a lot by people who are trying to say like, oh, I am natural, you guys just haven't gotten there yet because I've been training longer. You know, Jeff Side always says like, yeah, I've been training for 10 years. Simeon Panda says he's been training for, you know, 14 years in this video. Ulysses has been saying that he's been training for like 20 years or something. And the reason he's gotten so good and he's so big and he looks like he's not natural is because he's been training for longer. That actually doesn't really make sense. And the reason is that muscle gains plateau over a number of years. So it's not like a line graph, like, you know, that y equals mx plus v. It's not like you can just keep on gaining 10 pounds of muscle every single year for 20 years or whatever, and that's why they look unnatural, because they've been training so hard and training so long. If that was the case, anybody who's been training for 20, 30 years, like, you know, 40-year-olds, they'd be walking around at 300 pounds looking like Hulk. The problem is it's not a straight line, it's kind of like this. In the beginning, you know, you got your new gains and then it kind of plateaus. So what happens is your body requires more and more stimulation to actually put on muscle, and in addition, it just has natural barriers. You can't keep on putting muscle at the same rate, and eventually it just plateaus completely. There's, you know, things involved with, like, you know, your structure, things like myostatin, which limit the amount of muscle that you could put on, etc. There's actually a model by Lyle McDonald, as I mentioned, someone who's, you know, very knowledgeable in this industry, where he estimates with proper training and nutrition how much a total noob can put on muscle-wise in the following years of training. So in the first year, he could put on 20 to 25 pounds of muscle, which is a lot. That is awesome. You're gonna look like a completely different person. Second year, 10 to 12 pounds, still pretty good. Third year, 5 to 6 pounds, so considerably less. I mean, that's, you know, like what, like a fifth of your first year, and then 4 plus, which means your fourth year and onwards, 2 to 3 pounds, we were dealing with low single-digit amounts of muscle, or perhaps not even worth calculating. So that kind of sucks, guys, but what it essentially means is that you know, if you train properly after, you know, 4, maybe let's say 5 to 6 years at most, you're going to hit your genetic potential when it comes to size. So I'm not saying you should just give up. You can still increase in things like strength. You can still do better and better in bodybuilding competitions by coming in, you know, more shredded with better conditioning. But in terms of size, the amount of gains you're gonna put on is minimal. Even the Hodge twins actually mentioned it.
Year 1 contest, all of them gonna make some gains.
They gonna make some good gains.
Year 2, man, you know what? Yeah, they all gained a little size, but this shit's starting to look like deja vu. All these motherfuckers look exact same. Year 3 contest, man, you know, I don't know about coming back to this shit, man. These motherfuckers look the exact same as they did last year. And then year 4, year 5, year 6, everybody say, you know what? Fuck this. This is whack. I think these motherfuckers are getting smaller.
People who say, oh, I've been training 15, 20, you know, 14 years in Simeon Panda's case, that doesn't really matter, because after your 5th, 6th year of training, the amount of muscle you put on has slowed down so much that essentially whether you're training for 15 years or 5 years, it's not going to make a difference. Obviously there's some, but it's not going to, you know, be the explanation to why you look like you look like pretty much natural Arnold Schwarzenegger. But what steroids do, which is the magic behind them, is that they can take that genetic potential for lean body mass and actually raise it up. Even if you train for so long, you're just not going to break certain barriers unless you have steroids, which could lift up those barriers. So nobody's saying, you know, Simeon Panda's, you know, on something because of the amount of time that he took. We understand it's, you know, it's taken a lot of time and dedication and hard work. We're saying that even with all that, you know, even if you're the hardest working person in the world, I mean, these Mr. America winners I mentioned and these Mr. Olympia winners who were on steroids, they still got to their genetic potentials at that maximum. So how the hell can Simeon Panda naturally get to the same or higher maximum? I don't care if he's been training for 100 years. You just can't do the impossible. It's not a matter of time, it's a matter of, you know, genetic limit. But conversely, on the other hand, in defense of natural status for Simeon or anyone with physique similar, you know, to that being so advanced, you could say that if they are such genetic anomalies and outliers when it comes to the FFMI, as we mentioned earlier in the previous topic, why can't that be the same with regards to training time? Maybe the second year he doesn't gain 10 to 12 pounds of muscle, maybe he gains 15 to 20, and maybe instead of being 4 years of, you know, potential gains before it slows down, it's 5 or 6. Again, this is not 100% science. These are estimations. So if you can, you know, in a sense, go out on a limb and assume he's a genetic outlier in the first topic, why not in this one as well? The third topic, this one is also somewhat against natural. And guys, I apologize. I know you're starting to see a pattern thinking like, oh, if he said he's going to be on both sides, why is he just, you know, ragging on, you know, the against natural side of things? I apologize. In the next topic, we're about to do a 180. Either way, the third topic is natural organizations. And the reason I say, you know, the bunny ears is because even the Hodge twins mentioned it, that you know, natural organizations are essentially non-existent and they're kind of bullshit.
Natural bodybuilder, I'm gonna tell you, in my own honest opinion, is bullshit.
The Muscle Mania, especially at this point, it's pretty much touted as, you know, the IFBB Junior. Just looking at some of the high caliber athletes from the Muscle Mania specifically, we've got guys like obviously Simeon Panda, Shul Soon, Samuel Dixon, Stan McQuay. I mean, these guys are massive. And an interesting point on the last one, Stan McQuay, he actually recently-ish competed in the IFBB at the Mr. Olympia, which is crazy. So, and an interesting note about Stan McQuay is if you actually look at his contest history, you're gonna see some weird flip-flopping occurring. Back in 2000, he competed at the NPC, that's right, the NPC, which is the IFBB precursor and essentially an untested open organization. He competed in the NPC USA Championships, coming in 4th in the middleweight division. So that is a high level, you know, untested or open organization, and he came 4th. Then in 2001, 1 year later, he competed back at the Muscle Mania, taking the Super Body Professional first place. So isn't it kind of weird that somebody went from a very high level NPC open, and then 1 year later he's winning the Muscle Mania? Do you really think that he just hopped off the gear and suddenly he's a natural athlete? No, you can't do that. Unless he was competing in high levels of the NPC naturally, which is friggin' impossible. Then in 2002, he switched back to the NPC, winning the middleweight at the USA Championships. So this is weird. The fact that this guy is, you know, flip-flopping between a natural and unnatural organization and doing extremely well in both of them. I actually watched a little documentary where they covered the Muscle Mania competition backstage, and even at their own show, athletes are kind of, you know, talking about the shady aspects of the higher echelons of the sport.
What happens is every competitor that goes on stage for the finals, they're asked to urinate in a cup, and the cup is labeled. We have nurse practitioners on hand to make sure that everything, the person that goes in is the person coming out. They seal them, and they get sent off to a laboratory in San Diego.
I think it's great. Yeah.
I think it's
Keeps things
good,
fair.
Keeps everybody honest. Yeah.
but there's some clever people who know how to beat these things. But it's better than not doing anything at all, so I think it's good.
Okay, polygraph test. This is our first for natural topic. The thing is, you could argue that the polygraph is not a perfect test. It looks at things like heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, skin conductivity, and the key underlying variable between all these things is that they are physiological responses. What I mean by that is they are involuntary things which occur in the body naturally. You can't fake the way that your body reacts on a physiological level. So pretty much, can Simeon beat these tests? Of course it's possible, but has he been trained with some crazy CIA, 007 James Bond type shit where he can, like, you know, keep a straight face and lie in like interrogations? I don't know that he has that kind of training. But on the other hand, if you're going to argue the against natural side of things, people have called it more of a fear detector as opposed to a lie detector. So what it does is the test doesn't really look at someone and say, this guy's lying, this guy's not. What it does, it pretty much looks at anxiety levels, like I mentioned, in someone and then compares it. It's just, you know, it's a frame of reference, you know. What did he look like when he was telling the truth? What does he look like now when we ask him questions which we think he is lying? This has drawn a little bit of controversy, which is one of the reasons why lie detector tests or polygraph tests are no longer admissible in a court of law as accurate evidence. You can't use it. Otherwise, whenever they had like a murder charge or a murder trial, they would give the guy a polygraph, and if he answers, you know, whatever, boom, 100% conviction rate, the world is fixed. An interesting quote is actually, there is no evidence that any pattern of physiological reactions is unique to deception. An honest person may be nervous when answering truthfully, and a dishonest person may be non-anxious. And that is where the methodology and the way that Simeon actually did his test comes into play. Because let's say someone is being interviewed or interrogated, and, you know, at the Olympics, and he's in a room and someone's like looking at him, and a third party is testing him, and he knows, that athlete, that if he fucks this test up, his life is over, his career is over, so he's gonna be nervous, potentially even getting a false positive because he's so nervous, but he cannot mess up. But in Simeon's case, he was administering the test himself. Not himself, but he's the one who went, found this guy and said, hey, can you test me? And he did this before he announced it to anyone else. The video came out on like the 29th or whatever. He did the test a couple days earlier. So in a sense, he actually has nothing to lose, which can make him very calm and make it very easy when answering these questions to, you know, have low anxiety physiological response levels. Because, you know, the video came out like what, like the 29th or something, so he must have done the test a couple days earlier. He could have not told anyone, and if he fails the test, fine, whatever, no loss, no harm done. Crumple the test up, throw it away. The tester can't tell anyone because he's got a degree of confidentiality, I believe. And if he passes the test, good, put it on the internet, spout it out at the top of your lungs, show everyone that, you know, like Simeon Panda, lifetime natural bodybuilder, polygraph confirmed. So it's very easy to lie, and you have very low stress results when technically you have nothing to lose. Okay, topic number 5. This one is also for the natural side of the debate. This is the actual drug test, the hair follicle drug test that Simeon did and is promising to do consecutively for the next 6 months. Now, Vegan Gains was extremely critical and in a way a little bit harsh on his choice of the hair follicle test. Vegan Gains said that the urinalysis or the urine test is the standard for athletics. It's more accurate, it's been around longer, and that Simeon's pretty much using a less accurate methodology of drug testing with a lower detection time, and pretty much that he's trying to avoid the urine test because that might actually catch him. That I don't necessarily agree with, and like I said, guys, it's kind of black and white. For example, Vegan Gains actually provided a couple examples of urinalysis detection times. He said DECA has 17 to 18 months, which is obviously a very long time. Tren being 4 to 5 months, all, you know, again, a long time. And he's pretty much saying like, oh, look, urinalysis is so great, why didn't he use it? Well, in that exact same list, you also have the, you know, the opposite. Anavar, which is a very popular oral steroid, having a detection time of 3 weeks. And then if you want to go even lower, it's crazy. Testosterone suspension is 1 to 3 days. That is nothing. I mean, I believe the half-life is something like 24 to 48 hours. That means someone could legit inject this stuff, 2 days later compete, do a urine test, and A-okay. In addition, there's actually a study that I found, detection of anabolic steroids in head hair, published in the Journal of Forensic Science. So what they had is they had 7 not natural bodybuilders, and they tested them for certain substances using both the hair test and the urine test, and here's what they found. So, man, I don't even know what half these things are. Androlol was found in 2 bodybuilders, both in their hair and in their urine, so good for both. DECA was found in 2 bodybuilders, both in their hair, both in their urine. So far the hair test is, you know, standing its ground against the urine test. Oral turinabol was found in 4 bodybuilders, only in their hair and 0 in their urine. So in this case, the hair test actually does better. Anadrol was found in 0 bodybuilders for their hair, 1 bodybuilder in his urine sample. So in this case, the hair test did worse. Clen, which as we all know is a very popular drug used in bodybuilding. It's not a steroid, it's a very popular thermogenic to get you diced and shredded and raise your metabolism. This one was found in 1 bodybuilder's hair, 0 urine samples. So in this study, it's kind of a toss-up. And for most cases, hair and urine tests work just as well, but in some cases the urine test actually came out worse than the hair test. So to sit there, like, you know, with Vegan Gains and just immediately write the hair follicle test off as being crap, lower detection times, that's not always the case. So obviously, as you can tell, faking a hair drug test isn't that simple, because the drug actually implants on the hair, and even though you may be off the stuff, as your hair grows, the rest of the hair doesn't fall off until you cut it. and you know, it could be on there for months at a time, depending on, you know, when you took the drug and depending on how long the hair is grown. So faking one, fine, whatever. Faking 6 in a row on a monthly basis, you know, if you were to like hop on the drug in between months and hop off right before the test, that really starts to bring the probability and feasibility of this down. Unless he's like, unless Simeon's some crazy drug testing expert. But on the other side of the debate, this test is still considered fairly new. It's not, you know, the standard. It's still being investigated via these studies, whereas urinalysis has been used in, you know, the 90s, 80s, even further back at the Olympics. And it's pretty much, like I said, become the standard. This test works by looking at compounds and metabolites stored in hair as it grows from the follicle. So as people have said, theoretically, like, you know, if your hair is super short, which is kind of what Simeon has, considering the guy's got like, you know, barely an inch or something on his head and the rest of his body, that might play, you know, a factor in actually detecting these compounds. Topic number 6, and this one may be the most important topic, and this really may be the nail in the coffin when it comes to advocating the against natural side of things. Guys, there is a drug which can increase muscle, increase strength, decrease fat, and right now there is virtually no test that could, you know, with any reasonable level of accuracy detect it. Guys, I am of course talking about growth hormone. For example, an article on Slate actually mentioned, and I quote, "Lab-produced growth hormone looks almost exactly like the stuff we make in our bodies. It has the same sequence of amino acids and it stays in the bloodstream for the same amount of time." This means that unlike steroids and other compounds, which, you know, may have like slightly different chemical structures, they may do something similar to testosterone, but there's so many different, you know, types of steroids, right? Test, prop, deca, suspension, whatever. You can, in a way, tell that there is something foreign in the body, or you can at least tell concentration-wise. You know, if someone comes in, like in Alistair Overeem's case I mentioned in previous videos, when he comes in and he tests for having a 15-to-1 level of testosterone, as you know, in comparison to the standard natural amount, obviously something's fishy going around here. You can deduce that. Growth hormone, that's not necessarily the case. Another study mentions that detecting the misuse of exogenous growth hormone poses a formidable challenge for several reasons. Growth hormone has an identical amino acid sequence, as I mentioned, to the native 22-kdeoxo form of the hormone, whatever the hell that means. While cadaveric growth hormone is indistinguishable from endogenous growth hormone, it has a short half-life of under 20 minutes and is secreted in the pulsatile manner, leading to widely varying circulating growth hormone concentrations throughout the day. This means that you can't even look at the concentrations of growth hormone and say like, oh, it's really high, so he must have been taking stuff, because growth hormone goes up and down massive amounts throughout the day or after exercise, as I kind of mentioned in my compound versus isolation exercise video, where I mentioned you should train hard, heavy, intense compound exercises to stimulate anabolic hormone release. One of those anabolics was growth hormone. So let's say you have like a powerlifter or even a bodybuilder and he's working out and he's like flexing on stage, or he's like, you know, lifting heavy weights, and you test him directly after and he tests high for growth hormone. You guys can't tell based on the, you know, the actual molecular structure or based on concentration whether that growth hormone is, you know, high because he was working out, because your body's just releasing more of it, or it's unnaturally high because he was taking, you know, an exogenous source. In fact, growth hormone testing has finally started being the keyword, so it's like a beta, being tested in the NFL in October of 2014, which is just over a year ago. So think about it. The NFL is one of the biggest, you know, sporting organizations in the world, probably bigger than the Olympics. It's got millions, if not billions of dollars of resources at their disposal, and they finally just started testing for growth hormone, and probably, I don't think it's anywhere near accurate enough to actually get, you know, catch the majority of users. You really think that some random lab that Simeon Panda went to in London for a couple $1,000s is gonna have more accurate or even equally accurate detection mechanisms as the NFL does with all their resources? No, I highly doubt it. So if you can't test it in the urine, you can't test it in the blood, you know, with any reasonable accuracy, you definitely can't test it in hair follicles because it's such, you know, such a new drug testing system. That's it. Game over. You don't need clen. Growth hormone burns fat. You don't need steroids. Growth hormone builds muscle. You don't need whatever, because growth hormone does everything and you can't test for it. So guys, this kind of sucks because that means that everybody could be on this stuff and nobody can detect it. Theoretically, I could have gone right now in my room like 20 minutes before this video, like shot up like 10,000 IUs or whatever they take, and none of you will be able to tell. And I could take a clean 100% A-OK drug test a couple days from now and, you know, VitruvianPhysique, natural bodybuilder, and that's unfortunately the way it works. Another thing, guys, which I keep on hearing, this kind of like philosophical, and in a way it kind of annoys me. Simeon mentioned in his video, Mark Loblander kind of mentioned in his video to this whole Simeon Panda vegan gains controversial beef going on. Another thing that I keep on hearing, guys, this is almost philosophical, and you know, Mark Loblander mentioned it in his video response, and Simeon Panda mentioned it in his original video. It's almost like they're putting themselves or other guys on a pedestal, almost in a way saying that like they provide, you know, I guess so much motivation to other people, and it's almost as if, you know, the world suddenly found out that they're not natural, that people would be demotivated, and they're like, oh, I looked up to you and you were my goal and I wanted to look like you so bad, and now that you're proven to be a non-natural bodybuilder, I'm gonna quit bodybuilding, I'm gonna curl up in a ball and cry and be a little bitch. No, okay guys, like, we have plenty of other examples of people who are confirmed not to be natural, and we still look up to them and take motivation from them. Does anybody honestly think that Arnold was a natural bodybuilder, and yet he's still probably one of the most motivating and influential physical athletes of all time? So in that sense, what I'm trying to say is that hopefully most of my viewers can get a sense of motivation intrinsically from within themselves. I always implore you guys to build the best possible physique that you can for your body. Sure, you can use other guys as motivation, but I don't think you should ever, you know, base your sole motivation simply on them. So that way, if Simeon Panda or other, you know, natural bodybuilders that some of you guys, you know, my viewers look up to, if they were outed as, you know, 100% as being not natural, who the fuck gives a shit? We train for our own reasons. I mean, yeah, it's cool to get some motivation from there, but that is just one tiny little factor out of 100. So that's it, guys. That is the end of this video. Hopefully you learned a thing or two, and whether you are a strong advocate of Simeon Panda being natural or not, and you're, you know, taking team vegan gains, hopefully you enjoy this video and you can kind of, you know, get a better understanding of the opposite side of the debate, and you guys understand that, like I've said numerous times in this video, it is not black and white, it is 50 shades of gray. To vegan gains, you're a fucking dick, but you know your stuff. And to Simeon Panda, you are extremely controversial. I personally, you know, really have my doubts as to you being a natural athlete, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. You seem to motivate a lot of people all around the world, and if you're one of those people who believe that the ends justify the means, then it doesn't really matter. So to both Vegan Gains and Simeon Panda, you may never see this video, or if you do, and you know, you absolutely love it, or you fucking hate me, that doesn't really matter. I watched both of your videos and I enjoyed them, so I just want to say thank you.